I'm very much looking at trading now as how can I make a salary from trading. So I'm not thinking, right, I'm going to make $1 million and then 5 and then 10. I'm thinking, right, well, what do I really need to live on? Okay, well, if I make a little bit more than that.
Two traders, Darren and Walter, pull back the curtain on profitable trading systems, consistent money management, and profitable psychological triggers. Welcome to the Two Traders Podcast.
Welcome back to the Two Traders Podcast. Walter here. I've got Darren on the line, and today, Darren, we're going to talk about the cycle of doom. Shall I explain what this is all about? Or
please do, because I don't know what you mean by that.
Okay, so cycle of doom is something that I wrote about in the Naked Forex book, and I'm intimately aware of this because I do it, or I've done it. I've tried to stay away from it. Now what I do with this cycle is I've shifted it to sort of testing, but essentially this is how it works. You find this system that looks amazing, and maybe somebody's trading it, or maybe you heard about it, maybe you know someone who's doing really well with it, so you decide you're going to trade that system, and you trade it for a while, and things might even really, they may go really, really well for a while, and it looks like this is going to be how you're going to trade for life, and then all of a sudden something happens, and that something is a drawdown, you've got a losing streak, and then maybe you think to yourself, the market's changed, or the system isn't as good as I thought it was. And then you give up on it. And you can give up on it on a number of different ways. You might add a filter to it, so you're actually tweaking the system. You're not really trading what you were before. It's a different system. Or you might just throw it away altogether. It's really easy to do this if you use indicators. So if I'm using, for example, I used to use the RSI. I used to use Bollinger Bands. I used to use the MACD. I used to use all these indicators. Stochastics was the first indicator I used. So a lot of these indicators that are associated with my trading system, once I get through the cycle of doom and I decide that this system is no good, I can throw those indicators away. I can pull them off the chart, and I might not ever see them again. In fact, it may be years before I put the stochastic back on my chart again. Then I find something new and it looks really good, and I start the cycle of doom all over again. So this is really more of a systems thing, where we're looking for systems and we get really excited and we trade them for a while, and then something bad happens and then we give up on them and so forth. So a lot of this is related to a couple of things. One is unrealistic expectations, right? You don't really know what is a normal losing streak for your system. And maybe you think that you've hit on the holy grail, and this is the thing that's going to make you 3.7 million in the next 2 months, and you've got a $500 account, or whatever it is. So these are the sorts of things that happen when we get really excited about systems. I guess aren't approaching our trading from the right point of view, because we're not clear on what to expect. And so when something unexpected happens, we kind of give up. So what do you have to say about this? I mean, have you experienced this, Darren?
Yeah, obviously, I've been through that. It wasn't pleasant, and at the time it wasn't so bad, but thinking back, I wouldn't want to go through it again, for sure. And I think you're right, it is about expectations, and I think it comes back to the making notes thing again, or they don't set realistic goals for themselves. I mean, my thing at the moment is this idea of setting a goal for a week, and it gets slightly misunderstood, but it's not, say it's 100 pips, it's not get to 100 pips and that's it, you've achieved your goal. But I'm kind of, if I look back at my trading, my live trading, I can see that I nearly always I nearly always hit that goal, even on losing weeks. So it's realistic for me to kind of expect to hit that. Okay, let's say it's 100 pips. Now, I can back test and see that there's a lot of weeks I could have hit 200 pips. But that's, with the hindsight bias and knowing exactly, getting the best exits all the time, and knowing, the exact point where, the bad trades came along and saying, well, I'm 200 here in this backtest, so I would have stopped here. And that's kind of, it's unrealistic to expect yourself to be able to repeat that day in, day out. Backtesting goes by very quickly, and the actual live trading is a long, drawn-out process, whatever time frame you trade on, where you've got to make good decisions. And a lot of those decisions, whether you like it or not, rely on you making a good guess, really, about what to do. unless you've got a 100% mechanical system that, you know, works long term, you're having to rely on some guesses there. So I think if you set realistic goals, that, you know, that can help massively from you getting into this kind of cycle where you're disappointed. Funnily enough, whenever I hit my target for the week and I have either stopped trading or it's the end of the week, I always have this feeling of disappointment. And, you know, how bizarre is that? Because I know that this is a realistic goal for me. You know, I'm not hitting it out the park. I've got to perform fairly well and make good decisions all week. And when I achieve that, I get this instant feeling of disappointment. I still get it now. I can't do anything about it. I'm just better at dealing with it now. So yeah, I think realistic goals, realistic expectations, you know, are really important. And the final point on that is, you know, if you've back tested your system on 5 years and the maximum drawdown was 20%, then expect 40, because there's always going to be occasions where, no matter how you trade, the market's just, you know, really horrible and it just doesn't play ball with how you're trading. And, you know, just because it hasn't happened in the last 600, 700 trades doesn't mean that it isn't going to happen, you know, round the corner.
Yep, and you don't know what your slippage is going to be, right? We know that, basically we know at some stage what's going to happen is there's going to be a crazy event. And you may be in a pair that's affected. You may be in a market that's affected in that trade. And so you're going to get slipped. Because as far as I know, there aren't any more brokers left that guarantee your stops. There used to be, but I don't think they're around anymore. Which means, in essence, you have a lot. I mean, in theory, you have unlimited losses available to you as a trader. So if you have a stop that's 50 pips away and the market slips through that 500 pips, then, you know, that's a pretty big loss. So those things don't translate. They don't happen in Forex Tester. In Forex Tester, you're always going to hit your stop loss, right? So unless, well, it can gap over it. But yeah, so that's something to keep in mind. What you say is great, because if you've got that 15% drawdown, expect 30. And the only way around that really is to risk less, right? Like, we've got our friend James K in the forum, and he risks something like, you know, 0.25, 0.5%. And a lot of people look at that and go, you're crazy. You would make so much more money. And he's done quite well. Thank you very much. But, you know, people look at that and they say, James, you'd make so much more money if you were risking more. But that's not the point. The point to him is, I only want to risk a max of 0.5% because I know, you know, a couple of things. I know that I might have multiple signals and I might be in several trades at once. And so I don't want to compound that risk so that, you know, that I've got 7% risk outstanding at any given time. You know, I want to keep that down under 2 or 3. But the other thing is, he knows that he's going to have drawdowns, and he doesn't want those drawdowns to affect his clients as much, right? So that's part of the game. So I think you've really nailed it. But I'm curious as to, when you were talking about your disappointment earlier, Darren, I'm curious as to what do you think is the driver behind that? Or do you think it's a good thing, or are you trying to get away from it, or is it just accepted? Like, how is that? You know, what are your thoughts around that disappointment that you feel?
I find it quite amusing now, and what it really highlights to me is, no matter how good or bad you are at trading, we can't really get rid of these kind of biases and these, you know, the emotional effect of trading. So it just kind of highlights that fact that you need to sort of get better at not reacting to them. So I know I'm going to experience it now. I know it's just, was it fear of missing out, fear of future regret? That it's kind of that fear, greed thing playing out in your mind. You know what you said. Was it James who risks a small percentage?
Yeah, James. Yep.
He's just being really smart. You know, he's really aware of, you know, no matter how good a trader he is, that, you know, that the unexpected is going to happen, and not only that, you know, we're going to make mistakes as well. It's a difficult one to deal with, but you know, after a while you kind of spot them. Okay, yeah, that's that bias working there, and you just get better at reacting to them, I think, or not reacting to them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. And so the real solution to me is to, like we talked about this in the prior episode, where, you know, the really successful traders, those are the students that sit down and customize their system. So they're the ones that know, this is what I believe in, and this is what I'm going to trade, and this is how I'm going to make it mine, and I'm going to test it and make sure that everything looks good. I mean, that's really what it's all about. And you can break the cycle of doom if you, one, don't risk too much per trade, and two, are trading something that makes perfect sense to you, and you're intimately aware of the positives and the negatives and the weaknesses and all that with that system. That's really the key thing here, is that you've got to feel like this is yours, and this isn't something that you're just going to trade for 2 or 3 months and then throw in the scrap heap. So it's difficult, I think, for some traders out there who are still searching for their system. I think it's difficult to imagine that you'd be so in tune with the system that you trade it for decades. But it is possible. And I think the starting point is to start with, what are your biases? What are your beliefs? Right. And you're really clear on that, Darren. Like, you're really clear on, okay, this is what I believe to be true. Basically, what I'm building on is I'm building on those biases. Because if you do it the other way and you trade a system and then your biases creep in and start affecting that system, I think it's almost like a cancer that kind of seeps its way into that trading system and starts to pull it apart and makes it weak. And so it's easy for that to fall apart on you. But if you start from where you are, which is, okay, this is what I believe in, this is how I think you make money in the markets, this is how I believe, the most successful traders do this. If you start there, then you're going to build it on a foundation that is very strong, as long as your beliefs don't change, which of course that can also happen. But, at least you're starting from a point of strength rather than trying to pull in something that's not yours and then your beliefs sort of creep in and slowly tear it apart.
What about something I think is a big thing, and this might be a personal thing to me, but I'd wonder if you've come across it. And I find that the people that kind of want it too quickly, or are kind of approaching it like, they want to win big, and they might not openly say that, but, deep down inside them, they're thinking, right, 6 months of this and I can quit my job. And I think that kind of mindset certainly didn't work for me. And when I got to the point where I said, okay, well, 100 pips a week is what, 5,000 pips a year. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. I mean, you've got to sort of up your size to make a really decent income from that. When you just get into the groove of doing small, consistent wins, that consistency seems to kind of make all of the other elements of trading much easier. And you'll find that, it's much easier to take your entries, much easier to take your exits when you're not sure it's not a great exit, or it could have been a lot better if you'd exited the bar before. And all those sort of elements suddenly don't seem so important. And so I'm very much looking at trading now as, how can I make a salary from trading? So I'm not thinking, right, I'm going to make $1 million and then 5 and then 10. Thinking, right, well, what do I really need to live on? Okay, well, if I make a little bit more than that, and I can do that consistently, then I've always got the option to up my size further down the line. And, for me, that has kind of really calmed my trading down. And I think it probably help a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think I agree. I think the way I look at that, my filter, the way I see that is, you're focusing on the execution. So you're not getting caught up in the money. You're not getting caught up in a goal in terms of money, but because you're trading with a comfortable size, your focus is on the execution of the system. And so when we do things like quit our job and know that we have to make a certain amount of money every month or every week or whatever it is, that puts a lot of pressure. And usually that translates into trading lot sizes that are too big. And usually when you do that ends up leading to mismanagement of your system, basically. So once you start trading a size that's too big, you're getting away from your system. So your system might perform really well, even if you up the lot size and up the risk. But the problem is, it's that weight on you of, you've got to make X amount of dollars this week or this month or whatever it is. that totally changes everything. You can't sleep at night. You get up at night, check your trades. How many people listening to this right now, you know, get up in the middle of the night and check your trades? I mean, these are the sorts of things that, it's crazy, but it's true. I mean, we have to deal with these when we have too much risk on the table. So I think when it comes down to it, if you can make your live trading as close to your testing as possible, and if you're testing, like I was talking to a trader the other day, 2 days ago, and he was saying that all his goal is to just take 25 trades a day in Forex Tester. Okay. Now he's done over 800 trades. He's built up his confidence. He's got a lot of momentum going. He's got a little live account he's trading too. But the thing is, he takes these 25 trades a day and he focuses on these trades and he makes sure that they're really, really good. And then he makes the right decisions based on his trading rules and his system rules. But when you're trading too much money, that changes everything. You might take profit too quickly because you don't want this to turn out to be a loser or even a break-even result. You might move your stop loss too quickly to break even or whatever. You know, there are all kinds of things that you can do that sabotage because you're under that pressure. So my suggestion to you is really, if you're thinking about quitting your job, make sure that you have enough money to survive for 9 months. Save that money first so that when you're trading, there's low risk, there's not a lot of pressure. Give yourself 9 months to work it out at a minimum. And then you shouldn't be trading for a living the day you quit your job. What you should be doing is trading a live account to make money while you can live on your savings that you've saved up. And an even better solution for those that really want to quit their job, make sure you can double your money. So if you're making $10,000 a month on your job, are you making $20,000 a month on your trading? I mean, these are the sorts of things that will make it so much easier for you to execute your system. If you're making way more trading than you would be on your job, then you can lose that salary from your job, right? Then that's something that you can afford to let go of. But for a lot of traders, they're not at that point and they just want to get out of the job. That's the goal, is to get out of the job. Any reason to do that, if I had more time, I would take more trades and I'd do better with my account. Those are the sorts of things we hear a lot, right? I'm sure you've heard this, Darren, where, well, if I could quit my job, then I could focus on the 4-hour charts and then, blah, 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 and all that stuff. Really, let yourself get to that point first where you're really supremely confident, and then let go of that salary from the job. So that would be my advice, because otherwise you're not focusing on the right thing. You don't focus on the system and the pressure becomes too much.
Yeah, I think when I was first trading, all I could think of was, as soon as I get good at this, I can quit my job and then that's it. I'm going to be happy to just be a trader, Now I'm in that situation, I don't actually dislike my job anymore. I actually like my job now because the extra money I make from trading is meant that, just in general, I've got a lot more choice in my life. And okay, I don't work. I probably work half as much in my other businesses now as I used to. But strangely, I don't want to quit them completely. And so, I think often when that cycle of doom comes from the wrong mindset and wanting to try and achieve things too quickly and perhaps focusing on some negative elements of your life and trying to make trading, remove those elements. And, I don't think it's a great way to go about it. I think you need to get some realistic expectations, start off small, like you say, and just learn to be consistent, and don't start thinking about holidays and boats and cars and quitting jobs until you're actually, in that situation. And you quite often will see things different when you're there. Yep,
that's great advice. And I think that's, as traders, we need to focus on what's going to help, what's going to make this easy for us to do, And it's interesting how, for a lot of traders, trading is that thing that they want to spend more time with when they have a job. And then once that becomes possible, they actually are now looking for things to do away from trading, like, as you are. And, that's something I went through. When I made the full-time switch, I started thinking, is this really what it's all about? So instead of being at my desk, right, all day, Now I'm just at my desk at home all day, and I'm even lonelier, there's no one around, those sorts of things. So yeah, it's really about balance in the end, and finding that spot where you're feeling good about the amount of time you spend trading. I've got some friends who, the husband and wife team, who scalp the euro, and they spend the whole summer, they don't trade. They don't trade the whole summer. They just go boating, and they only trade for about 2 or 3 hours every morning when the market's open in Europe. So, they've got a really regimented schedule. They'll both go into their room and trade the same chart, and then come back and talk about it, after 3 hours. And they have a lot of time off. A lot of time off. That's critical. I think all traders, it doesn't really matter if you're trading the 1 minute charts or the weekly charts. Somehow you've got to build time away from trading to really make the most of it. If you get sucked into this game, because Forex is a 24-hour game, if you get sucked into this game where it just takes you away from a healthy life, you're spending too much time in front of the screen, you're not sleeping, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to get frustrated, you're going to get upset, you're not going to stick to your system, you're going to make sloppy errors. All of these things are going to creep in if you don't have that balance. So like you say, Darren, that balance might just be having something other than trading to do during the day, whether it's a hobby or a business or whatever, something to, maybe you want to go and tell jokes to the old folks at the nursing home, or, or whatever, or go juggle or go juggle out in front of the bus stop, or, with your hat out. You got to have something outside of trading, because I know for a lot of people it's so exciting to think, yeah, I'm going to be a full-time trader and it's going to be the best thing ever. But really, it can be the best thing ever, but it still means that you can't throw all of your time into it. You still have to split it up. You still have to find time away from trading. You still have to take breaks. You're taking a break in a few days, right? You're going to go and have some fun and stay and get away from home and travel, and you do that quite a bit. And that's part of the deal, is that you spend these intense times in front of the charts, and then you spend time away from the charts, right? So it's, yeah.
Love that contrast. I really love that contrast. I look for the break. I really look forward to my breaks away, and then I really look forward to getting back to trading as well. So that works for me definitely, and having other stuff to do, certainly deals with that kind of illusion that if you're just sat there watching the charts, that somehow you're going to sort of change the outcome. Never goes away, and if you've got something that forces you to have that break, it's going to help you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I really appreciate the time, Darren. Great session. We will see you next time.
Okay, Walter. See you next week.